An acting teacher I had in New York said, comedy is crying over burnt toast. I'm Tracy Smith, and I've been doing comedy since 1989.
My name is Lenny Schmidt. I've been doing comedy almost 30 years.
Michael Mack, 26 years.
I am Sean Jones. I've been doing comedy just for a short time, 23 years.
Gabriel Rutledge, 16 years since my first open mic.
My name is Dustin Nickerson. I've been doing comedy 4.5 years.
Do you remember the Lucy and Ethel thing where they're in the chocolate factory? Why it is so funny? Because those chocolates mattered to them.
Yeah.
It was very, very important. Mm-hmm. And to everybody else, it's hilarious. And that's what makes you go, this matters to me. And you're flipped out and you're angry, you're upset over something so small and stupid, and everybody else is killing themselves laughing. Yeah. So the more you feel it, the more of a response you'll get from the audience. And you just have to not be thinking that you're trying to get that response. You have to think that thing that you're talking about truly, truly matters.
And that's a hard thing to tell people when they tell you they want to do comedy, and you're like, you're not going to be that good for like 8-10 years. I mean, it's such a long process. And I mean, I still have material all the time that I think is going to be hilarious, and it's not. That never goes away. Where I'm like, I thought that was going to be great, and oh well.
I tell a lot of young comics, the audience more or less buys into your personality, and less of your material to a certain degree. You know what I mean? If you're likable, if the audience have come together collectively and say, hey, we like this guy, he's funny, you can pretty much go anywhere, you know? I mean? So it's just like, we'll go wherever he takes it, even if it is something that's like, oh my God, I would never say that, but it's funny. And see, that takes studying, that takes knowing your craft, so people buy into comics' personalities. They like that person more than they like their material.
Pete Holmes has that quote where he says, that like for your first few years you wear your influences, and there's probably some element of that. Did I practice it? Yeah, every night, not in front of crowds of between 0 and on good nights, big shows in front of thousands. Sometimes you get lucky and you have a great show, and so yeah, I mean, there's no secret to stand-up comedy. It's, in my opinion, it's write, perform, edit, write, perform, edit, perform, edit, write. So the answer, it's come with a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I love the feeling of what I think a comedian would call like an anticipation laugh. Meaning, before you even say the thing, they're like, I think I see where he was going. Not in a way that like the joke's so dumb they know the punchline, but like if you're telling a story and they're like, oh, I see where, what I mean? That's a good feeling, because they're with you. If they're that locked in, that's a good feeling.
And then pay attention constantly about what they're reacting to, and then build from there, because it's all trial and error. That's what we do. It's like, who knows? Like, you can try a joke on somebody, but they may be the one person who laughs, or they may be the one who doesn't. You can't test it on one. That's what's scary about it. You got to go out, like I said, lay it on a table in front of strangers. And they might go, we hate what you've come up with. Or, we love what you came up with, but it's trial and error over and over and over. And just the practice of being on stage till you feel it's your home, where it's scary, they're strangers, but to where you feel so comfortable. There's nothing like it. It's great.
See, I read people. After the first couple of times of me saying something, I look at their facial expression as well as their mannerisms. You can tell when a person is really, not feeling. It's certain ways that they sit. It's certain, if you look at them and they're not responding to much of anything, or they're whispering over to their buddy, you might want to just leave them alone.
Well, that's a good story, because I do one song with the girls' names. And originally, it was girls and my ex-girlfriend's song. So it was 8 girls. I made up their names, and I just sang the song. And one time I said something about Mary, and all of a sudden this burst of laughter comes from over here, and I had stopped, and I was like, what are you laughing at? And they said, this is Mary. I went, oh, it's better when it's them. So then after that, now I get them to call out the names, and then that song is now people in the audience. And the song just tripled in effect.
I'm not that descriptive. I kind of let the audience paint the picture.
Yeah.
I don't actually say the act or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's
I'll think of an idea. More than likely, I'll think of something I want to talk about, and I'll start talking about it on stage first.
Well, I used to call it joke patrol. I mean, I don't know where it came from. It was like walking throughout the day, anything that funny that happens or that you say is funny and somebody else laughs about, write that down. But you have to remind yourself, because you'll forget. Things funny will happen all the time, but you've got to go, somebody laughed, write that down. And then you build a notebook of one-line ideas. And then you have to sit down every once in a while and take those ideas and twist them into story form.
Where I'll sit down with the computer and I'll just literally, it's like I'm typing it, and then I'll pace it in the room back and forth, and I'll think of ways to change it and ways to move it and ways to move it around, and then I'll try it again that night and see how it goes. And then it's usually, when you write anything, it starts out as like a whole bit that's like 15 minutes long. There's a longer chunk of it that I could never make work, and the more I whittled it down, the more I realized it's just that one joke. But sometimes that's how it works. You write 10 minutes of shit, and then you go, oh look, I got a 15-second joke out of it.
Used to help me when I was just starting out to have all these lines of funny ideas and watch other comics on TV and try to read through the bits they were doing with stories and see what the original idea was. And you can do that and then see how they took that idea and created this, mostly we make up the story, it's all lies, to deliver that funny idea that's within it. Paying attention, I'm a good listener. I get input from other comics at times. I'm a really good listener, even things I don't think of myself, but I'm always aware, and if a comic says, hey, what if you did this? I pay really close attention to that, because there's a lot of smart people out there who are seeing you from the other side. You should always be a good listener.
You know, any young comic out there, I suggest that you write your material. People just think, oh, I was funny with my friends, I was funny with my families. That's a whole different environment. You realize that having to stand on stage for 5 minutes to tell a story that happened to you at your family reunion is quite hard. It's much harder to try to get through that when you haven't written it out and structured it correctly. You know, that's the misconception of comedy. People think, well, I'm funny around my friends, I can do this. Like I said, comedy is a science to this madness that we do. It comes across like, you might look at me and say, oh, that guy just goes off the top of his head. But I've been doing this for 20 plus years. So a lot of things that might seem spontaneous, I've been through these situations before. But when you're first time on stage or whatever, you're young in the comedy game, it won't be that easy,
You just make it look easy.
I just make it look easy.
Yeah.
Like sex. I make it look easy. I make it look quick and easy. That's an uncomfortable laugh. Like, I don't know how much is this true.
I was actually thinking I'm probably going to edit that out.
Right. This is Christian television.
Yeah.
This is Christian television.